As a speech to the United Nations, this was an absolute rip snorter. The President went into that chamber in very typical Donald Trump fashion, ready to really confront them, to take it on. It reflected his own view that some of these multilateral organisations, particularly here the United Nations, is one for which Donald Trump has little, if any, respect, and he just went at them, one thing after another. He attacked the Mayor of London. Sadiq Khan said he was a dreadful mayor and that London, they want to go towards Sharia law. He said that told them your countries are going to hell. That was over illegal immigration. He talked about carbon footprint is nonsense. He repeated his election claim of drill, baby, drill. He said that the green energy was a scam. He talked about clean, beautiful coal. He said that he'd instructed his staff in the office never to refer to coal, but only to refer to clean, beautiful coal. He accused the United Nations predictions on climate change of being not only wrong, but drawn up by stupid people, was his word. And so he just went through one thing after another, saying that the pathetic countries that had gone for renewable energy were on the brink of destruction. And it was very Donald Trump, because after an hour of attacking them, making all sorts of accusations, they couldn't run a teleprompter properly. He said he was coming in the escalator here a short time ago with Melania, his wife, and he said it broke down halfway up. They couldn't even get an escalator to work. The teleprompters weren't working. But at the end of all of this, he said, by the way, we're hosting the FIFA World Cup in the future, and you're all welcome to come here. Come to Washington, D.C. He said, I've made it safe now from crime. And he said, we're running the Olympics. So he invited everybody to come. So this stunned audience, who'd been accused of having countries that had been ruined, were at the end invited. And one of his closing lines to them all was, let's build a bright, beautiful planet, starting today. It was classic Donald Trump, but it was Donald Trump on steroids. He was unplugged. It was raw Donald Trump, and it was quite an extraordinary performance here.
Yeah, unplugged indeed. And we're going to go to some comments he made about the war in Ukraine now, John. He says that the country is able to win back all the land it lost since the beginning of the invasion. Is that a shift in his position?
Yes, it is a big shift, Gemma, but it's words, it's rhetoric. Donald Trump here can change his position, even within a matter of hours. Those who work around Donald Trump, many of them say that part of his modus operandi is he can be influenced by the last person to whom he's spoken. He's quite impressionable in that sense. And one of the last people he's spoken to here today at the United Nations behind me is the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. He's also been surrounded today here at the UN by an ecosystem supportive of Ukraine, by Ursula von der Leyen from Europe, by Emmanuel Macron from France. These are all big supporters of Ukraine. And suddenly he's gone from a few months ago saying that Ukraine had started the war, the savaging that he and J.D. Vance, the Vice President, did towards Volodymyr Zelensky in the White House famously. Now it's all changed, and he's essentially saying today Ukraine can win back all of its land, and it's in a strong position. So in this sort of game of chess between him and Vladimir Putin, and up to now I think Vladimir Putin has largely been outfoxing Donald Trump. It looks like Donald Trump's almost had enough of the taunts of Vladimir Putin, because almost after every conversation they have, Vladimir Putin and the President Trump, then the Russian leader then seems to order increased attacks on Ukraine. And in fact, Donald Trump has said his own wife, Melania, has said to him, what is it that every time you have a conversation with Vladimir Putin, you come in and you say how well it's gone, and then he increases the attacks in Ukraine, almost as if he's taunting Donald Trump. And we're now seeing those incursions by Russian jets over some NATO airspace. And in fact, today, President Trump was asked, would you support or agree that NATO countries can shoot down Russian jets that are flying into their airspace? And he said, yes, they can do that. So that could be a serious escalation of this war.
Indeed. Now, the US increasingly isolated on the issue of recognising a Palestinian state. He told this audience at the UN that he is condemning these moves by Western powers, countries like Australia. to do that?
Well, the United States and Israel are now very isolated on this issue. Almost 150 countries here at the UN, the vast majority of countries want the recognition of the state of Palestine. And on a daily basis, of course, we're seeing what would be the state of Palestine increasingly being demolished. Every night we're seeing pictures of buildings in Gaza City being destroyed. Essentially, Gaza is now virtually unlivable. So while here they're talking about a Palestinian state, on the ground there, the horrors, the killings continue. And so Donald Trump continues to maintain the Israeli line that, basically not pressuring Israel to do anything. He does say, and he did say today, that Hamas needs to release those hostages immediately and urgently, and not in groups of 2 and 3 as have happened in the past, but all of them should be released immediately.
And finally, John, we have confirmation that Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese will meet, but it won't be there. It'll be next month. What can you tell us?
Well, that's right. The Prime Minister Albanese has confirmed that there will be a meeting on October 20 in Washington. It'll be a special trip. It won't be tacked on to part of any other thing. There was a meeting scheduled in Canada which was cancelled for other reasons, so I will believe this meeting when I see it, if it actually happens. It certainly takes pressure off Prime Minister Albanese, who's been under increasing pressure that after 7 or 8 months he hasn't been able to get a meeting with the US President. Here in the United Nations meeting, even Argentina got a one-on-one bilateral meeting with the US President ahead of Australia. And I think this is a way of Australia, I think, has really pressured the United States and the President's office and said, you've got to give us something. This is starting to get awkward and embarrassing. And so now Anthony Albanese is able to say, but it's all right, I'm meeting him on October 20. I'll believe it when I see it.